sincerely. It has been my distinct honor and privilege to work alongside Bishop Margaret Payne for the past almost 12 years. During this time among us as bishop, she has taught children, ministered to the elderly, reminded us of our baptism, preached God's word, presided at the Eucharist, ordained new pastors, comforted those in mourning, lived a life of social justice and partnership, and has been an exemplary ecumenical partner. 12 years ago, the Holy Spirit moved the 2000 Synod Assembly to elect a pastor who had just recently moved to New England to be our bishop. We have grown together during that time. It is clear that as Bishop Payne retires, we can look back and say forthrightly that the Synod has moved forward and is now ready to be taken to the next level by our new bishop. Bishop Payne, as you come to the podium for your last report, the New England Synod says to you, sincerely, wholeheartedly, and with great gratitude, and says, "Well done, our good and faithful servant."
Thank you. Thank you. I was saying to Pastor Raphael that I remember 12 years ago when I stood to say I would be willing to do this. I looked out over the assembly and hardly knew a soul. And I've been spending time here already, seeing so many of you that I know so well in so many different kinds of ways. And so you really are my congregation, and I thank you for this. Mark has thanked me, and many other people, individually and in groups, have been thanking me for my work as bishop. But I don't think it's ever completely, fully understood or appreciated how the office of the bishop is so much more than one person. We say that a lot. But I'm not sure that it really sinks into people. And so what I want to do in the first part of my report this year is to take time now to ask you to help me thank the people who have made me look so good for the past few years. And I'd like to ask the staff to come forward. I warned you, so come on up. Come on, come on. Yeah. Tim, Paul. Lisa, is Sister Virginia around? If somebody could go get her up, that would be good. If someone can go down to the office and get Sister Virginia, she tries to get out of this whenever she can, but she promised me she would come up here. Well, okay. When I was trying to think of a token of gratitude that I would like to give to each of these saints who have been so important in our ministry together, I remembered the St. John's Bible. If you do not know what that is, it's the first Bible in 500 years to be created entirely by hand, using centuries-old techniques, including the use of quills that they shape and original ink that would have been used in earlier manuscripts, and gold leaf to do all of the calligraphy. And then they commissioned a whole series of original artworks to illustrate the Bible. And so it has come together over a period of about 15 years into a breathtakingly beautiful work of art. It was commissioned by the St. John's Benedictine Abbey in Collegeville, Minnesota, hence the name the St. John's Bible, at the end of the last century, and they've been working on it ever since. I have spent time on retreat in that abbey and saw the Bible there, but I have also seen pages of it. Pages of it go on tours throughout the country and are shown at different museums and places. In fact, on a very notable occasion some years ago, some of the people standing here on this stage found themselves dragged, was it 30 blocks? I sort of thought it was closer than it was, to go together to a museum where some of the pages of the Bible were on display. So you guys were troopers about that, as you have been in everything else. So what I have for each one of you is a gift, a print from one of the pages of the St. John's Bible, because I have always thought of you less as a staff, but more deeply as partners in the gospel of the proclamation of the Bible. So for Barbara Lamson and Kathy Schlechte, there's a print that's a calligraphy of the familiar blessing from the order for worship. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord makes his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Because the two of you have been such an incredible blessing to us. Barbara, few people realize the hours you spend nurturing our candidates through the process to ordination and commissioning, and taking care alongside of that of the endless paperwork involved. You also assist Pastor Jane O'Haron Shields with mission work. You create the care package, and you just do countless other jobs while always taking the time and patience to be a person who provides a caring human voice at the end of the phone line. I have been especially grateful for your outstanding and unique commitment to our work of anti-racism, begun with the Healing the Wounds process and continuing today. So thank you for always making time with all your other things to support that. Kathy, when you came to us, we were delighted with your welcoming presence as a receptionist, but little did we know that underneath that charming exterior was an incredibly smart, well-organized, financially savvy, hard-working, but fun-loving dynamo. Your work ethic would make Steve Jobs look like a slacker. But he had none of your grace and quiet dignity. Thank you for your willingness to take on so many responsibilities in the work of the Synod. Has Sister Virginia arrived yet? No. Well, I'm going to read hers anyway, so you'll know what she got, and she'll hear from me. Her work among us, as you know, has primarily been in the area of communication. And for those of you who have been to previous assemblies, remember the pink link? Yeah. But all in telling the story of the gospel. But she has an even deeper commitment to the gospel community of Jesus. And so the print for her is entitled Life in Community. Shown by the artist as a circle of people sharing a never-ending common table. And I have to tell you, because you can tell her about this later, and you can tell her, and because she didn't come, she didn't get to hear it in person. But besides that, and all of our staff meetings, she brings a playfulness to us. She never lets us forget about the Beatles. We celebrate all of the Beatles' anniversaries. She makes beautiful handmade cards, and she takes pictures of everything imaginable, many of which I hope she will keep in a file that never sees the light of day. So. Lynn, for you I have a print of Ruth and Naomi. In the picture they are seen from the back, leaning inward toward each other and looking together into the future. And for me, that captures one part of the amazing spirit that you have brought to our staff. This picture was the closest I could find in the series of prints to the biblical illustration of your well-known motto, "It is what it is." You take on reality in whatever form it appears, joyful or painful, with an upbeat acceptance that says, okay, what shall we do next? And then support us as we try to figure out what to do next. All the while that you take time for patient listening and attention to all the tasks and to about approximately 1,000 phone calls that come to you every day. And alongside of all of that, I know in a way that nobody else knows really how you have been fiercely supportive and protective of me. I appreciate that so much, and I want to add that I always want to be on your side of any battle. You are my AA, which most people think means only administrative assistant, but I know it also recognizes your abundant accomplishments, reminds me that you are my alert advocate, and when times get really tough, you have been my avenging angel. Oh, thank you. Lisa, I have never known anyone with such a cosmic passion for evangelism as you have. And so the print for you is entitled To the Ends of the Earth. It's a contemporary image of the earth in space with the text in gold lettering, and it just drains all the smallness out of our vision for ministry. Lisa, you have the Great Commission in your bones. And whether you are encouraging people to try new things or leading the Doing What Matters process or embodying with Jim the fact that healthy leadership and congregations are indeed possible in the life of our church, or if you are simply being the endlessly optimistic and caring presence that always makes us more hopeful about our work, you are always a glimpse of grace for us. So, Jane, the first print I picked out was the one for you, because it just kind of jumped out from the page to me as being a way to describe the mission miracles that you do. It's entitled Ruth the Gleaner. In the biblical story, Ruth was permitted to glean from a harvested field, and that gleaning led eventually to a whole new harvest that brought hope and a new future. The description of the picture says, Ruth carries a basket of abundance and promise, and so do you. You patiently, persistently, and gently find, gather, and nurture small things that are growing into a new harvest for the church. And as we see this growth, and we can see it in my report and for all the things that have been said during this period, we are reminded how you simply don't see scarcity and how you always dream big. You have been an integral part of the office of the bishop long before the churchwide said you were supposed to be. So you were a forerunner of that, including, among the many other mission skills, the use of your skills for interior decorating, party planning, storytelling, patient listening, and a world-class ability for shopping that leads us all in the dust. Tim, the print for you is entitled Sower and the Seed, and it was another one that I couldn't resist because it captured so much about your work among us. It has the feel of an icon. It's a picture of Jesus scattering seeds. But here's the thing, Jesus is wearing blue jeans. A pictorial suggestion of one of the reasons why you and Jesus work so well together. Because neither of you feels constrained by old expectations. Some of the soil in the picture is rocky, which is a particularly apt description of ministry in New England, especially in the Northern Kingdom, whose beauty and challenge you love so much. Tim, you and Ann are incredibly committed to the gospel call to plant seeds in every kind of soil, in new places, in new ways, even when the possibility of growth is dubious at best. But you always face the work of the call with your steady faith that God will be the one tending the harvest. Paul, it seemed important that the print for you have a connection to the Old Testament for your love of the Holy Land, lots of gold for your love of icons, but mainly a focus on the gift of Jesus Christ. For you see your life shaped by your service to the church that tells the story of his life, death, and resurrection. So yours is messianic predictions, a picture showing the energy of the gospel breaking out of the foundation of the Isaiah text on which Handel's Messiah is based. The energy reminds me of you, although yours is the quietly persistent kind and not the explosive kind. And so does the strong foundation remind me of you. But what the print can't capture are things like this: your amazing self-discipline, your artistic gifts, your financial gifts, your legal gifts, your uncanny ability with puns. And I wasn't even going to try to make one because I knew you'd have a comeback and it would ruin those. Your fruitful trips to the dump, and an imaginative relationship with the world that combines humor, love, patience, and constant self-giving. Alice Carr, anyone who knows you at all knows how important family is to you, especially your grandchildren. So the print for you is a depiction of Jesus' family tree. It's in the shape of a menorah and includes names in both Hebrew and English, as well as interwoven designs that are inspired by the three Abrahamic faiths. Your work on the staff has also been quite an interweaving of roles: manager of a capital campaign, office manager, assembly manager, and there are many other strands as well: preaching, teaching stewardship, sharing your musical gifts, and perhaps closest to your heart, your work with pastors and congregations. And here's where your family inclination comes into play. There are a number of pastors out there who think of you a bit like Mama Laird, which I might point out is different from Mama Grizzly in many different ways. So, your close connection and care for them has been an enormous factor in helping us to communicate that the office of the bishop is not an adversary, but a loving companion in the journey that we all walk together. Ted, I chose a print entitled "Christ Our Light" for you, because I know that despite your great knowledge of Christian history, theology, liturgy, ecumenical relationships, and the ins and outs of this institution that we call church, your most profound knowledge is that of Jesus Christ, who dispels every darkness. It's a picture of Christ, the living Word, stepping out from the chaos of creation to bring life and light and grace to the world. Ted, you have been my right-hand J. And in Myers-Briggs language, that means he's a person that's obsessive about getting the job done and getting the details right, as I am. So you've given me the gift of assurance that everything I place in your hands will be done with utter competence, but also handled with the kind of loving pastoral care that has been the foundation of your ministry from your many, many days in the parish until your work on the staff, and shows the light of Christ in all the corners of the New England Synod. And now, before I ask the assembly to stand and thank these folks with applause, I would like to thank one more person who is up here on the stage who doesn't know about this because he thought he was just being a gopher for me, but Mark Winsler. Mark has been the Synod Vice President for the entire 12 years of my time as bishop, and this will be the first and only time that I get to surprise him with comments. And I was nice on this round too, but I'll get you later. Mark, your love for this church has been expressed by your concrete sequential leadership. For all these years, using your gifts of presiding wisely, teaching, analyzing, teasing, caring, encouraging. But we all know that your particular love is for the worship life that we share in this church. So this is a gift for you, a book of illuminations of prayers and wisdom from the St. John's Bible that recognizes both aspects of your faithful service, a life of prayer and a sharing of wisdom. You have been my colleague, friend, worship assistant, email partner, and trusted companion, even though I'm not sure I trust that you were ever going to retire from your day job in education. But in this way, I give just a small token to thank you for all that you've been. And now, some applause for them would be appreciated.